Welcome to this week's Aiding Your Game. The last few weeks we've been building an adventure. I hope you've been following along. Tonight we're going to present it and kind of go through the details that we've finished fleshing this out. And as a reminder, this adventure is going to be uploaded so that you can download it for free. Now I've titled the adventure Hard Journey Home. Let's dive in and see how we present it to our players. Now, before we begin, I do want to ask you to hit that subscribe button. Also, if you like the content and want to see more, make sure you hit that thumbs up. Leave a comment below and let me know what you think about this adventure and the adventure that you've created. And don't hesitate to share the link to this video with your friends and families. As mentioned, we've been building this adventure in the last few weeks. Let's jump in and talk about the adventure. I'm going to be looking down at the adventure, so if I don't make eye contact with you, don't take it personal. So I have titled it Hard Journey Home. The introduction is, as you journey back to your home village of Thetis in the Peaceful Valley, your new life as an adventurer will be tested by the changed environment, time, and evil cultists following a mad sadist. Will you survive the now deadly road home and save the village and your people from whence you came? So we really built this just from scratch, looking for introductory to gaming for new players or new GMs. And this is really built around having kind of preset limitations on characters as far as where they're from. And we've designed it to be pretty easy for first level characters. But of course, the steps we used you can adjust for different level characters as well as different backgrounds and starting expectations. Now that's all covered in the foreword of the adventure, which if you download it, you'll be able to read through and just kind of get a good grasp on. We also designed a map for the area, which you can pop into just about any environment. It doesn't have any direct tie-ins to the Forgotten Realms, where D&D 5e is really kind of set, but you can work it into Forgotten Realms. We've left it general and vague enough to where you could move it into that just by relabeling the map a little bit. So if you've got your character ready to go following the set pieces in the introduction of the adventure, let's go ahead and present the adventure. The late morning finds you in the common area of the Green Oak Inn. After the driving rains of the previous day and night drove you to seek shelter from your trek to your home village of Thetis. Now, the bright blue sky is clear through the open door, and the puddles on the road reflect the bright sunlight. Around you, merchants hurriedly eat and pack, while a burly cook moves among the tables filling bowls with porridge. The innkeeper stands counting coins at the counter. The slurping of the porridge and clanking of the coins are intersected with the late crowing of a rooster from the yard. The steaming porridge, smelling of grains, fights with the clean air wafting through the open door. The flavor of the porridge, bland, lumpy, hot oats, doesn't provide much excitement for your first meal, but will give you a start on the final push home. Suddenly, a scream of pain and agony cuts through the subtle morning routine as a panicked and shattering cry for help rings out. Outside, an elderly man dressed in common clothes and a now dirty apron struggles on the ground as four figures, each in red leather armor and black cloaks, struggle to hold his arms and legs. A fifth figure, holding an odd box covered with long leather straps in one hand and a curved scimitar in the other, quickly looks toward the inn and hollowly calls out, "Back to your morning duty. This doesn't concern you." As the opening scene, the characters then should be working to rescue the victim who's being assaulted on the outside. There's a lot of details in that we're not going to cover. We're just going to give the presentations that we would the player, so bear with us as we jump into the next scene after they save the NPC, find out that the village has been sacked, and get pleaded to go on an adventure to the city, saving some other NPCs along the way. They know the area. They'll have to pass through swamps, the Red Hills, and then do a river crossing before getting to the city. So, getting all their bravery, coming up with a plan, and heading off into the swamps, a misty fog stretches over the black cypress, whose bases are hidden below a murky and debris-littered water. Frogs and insects roar their natural sounds about you as a heron screams a series of clucking squawks rapidly. The composting stink lingers with a fragrant blooming undertone, while fetid mud stink wafts through. The wet air, clammy, the cool water, sticking twigs and occasional feather greet and mark your passage. The old stone road disappears beneath the muck before you. Trekking through the swamps, the characters will have an encounter in that location. Make sure you download the adventure to find out what that is. After making it through the swamps and to the Red Hills, we jump into the next section of this adventure. Dusty, pale red sandstone rises from the murk towards the foothills and mountains. The dry, rough stone, like sandpaper, is firm yet treacherously covered with small stones and pebbles. The chalky dust, gritty and rough, coats your mouth with an earthy dryness. A distant scream echoes over the rough terrain from ahead, an agonized plea for mercy and release. Again, another adventure in the Red Hills where the party will encounter more NPCs as well as more villains to overcome. That NPC is going to assist in spurring them on, making sure that they're continuing on the adventure and staying the course to get to the city and free the entire village from the sadist cult leader. However, trekking through the Red Hills, they come across a river crossing, which they are aware of. Normally, they would just use the bridge to cross to get into the fields before the city. However, when they get to that river crossing, we have another encounter in our adventure. The river, muddy and red with silt, rushing high with 3 areas of whitecaps breaking over rocks. The wooden bridge, battered and precariously, mostly submerged beneath the rapids, swells the banks. The fresh air, marred only by a muddy earth scent, moves with the flowing water. The warm sun, now getting low in the sky, sits in contrast to the cold water. Heavy smoke wafts into the air beyond from the fields outside the city. Now, the bridge crossing is quite a bit of an encounter and has a couple of different sections. There are 4 pieces on the bridge that the players need to get across to make it into the fields. The first section leading from the bank is a burnt span. The bridge juts from the bank and is covered in smoldering ruin above the roaring river below. The burnt ends, cracked and broken, shift against the water, which is mostly submerged the next section. The next section, once the PCs get across that section, encountering a little bit of difficulty and needing to do some checks, the next section is the submerged span. This bridge section disappears under the roaring water with just the rope cable above the surface. The splashing water, moistening the rope, splashes and gurgles at several points where the cables enter the muddy, swollen river. Again, a difficult encounter that the PCs must get through to get to the village. And the next section is the stone pier in the center of the river. This bridge section sits atop the stone pier, still in place above the rushing and swollen river, however, over 15 feet above the water level where you find yourself currently. Another challenge the characters have to overcome. Finally, the last section is the splintered span. This bridge section has been twisted from the bridge being damaged and sits crooked, leading to the bank. The lower section shifting in the rushing water. The planks of the bridge creak and groan as they shift and undulate. Now, because this river crossing has several kind of aspects where the players have to overcome challenges. We did put in a section on what happens if they fail some of those checks and balances. What happens if they end up in the water? And we've got some good content in the adventure to address those questions, so you're not left just having to come up with it on the spur. Of course, once the PCs do make it across, especially by utilizing the NPC who they met in the Red Hills, who can assist giving some guidance just in case the players run into some struggles, there is that kind of safety net there. They should be able to make it across and jump into the outer fields outside the city. Fields once green and lush, now ashen gray, and still smoking in some areas. The soil, cracked and scorched, crackles with embers as the wind rustles ashes. The burnt scent hangs heavy in the air, which is still hot and radiating from the ground. Ahead, at the gate, a suit of armor, recognizable as the city captain of the guard, creaks on a pole as several weapons protrude from the ground around it, all covered in soot. As the players approach, it should have a real ominous feeling. Don't hesitate to play up those cues that are given to you in the adventure. Upon approach, the burnt bodies of 4 city guard lay near the gate. The armor on the pole, moving slightly in the wind, seems to stand at your approach. Though empty, the helmet turning in your direction as the gauntlets rise, the swords lifting from the ground, spinning as the blades point towards you. Again, another combat encounter that the PCs have to overcome to get to the city gates proper. And that's where we have our big bad evil guy, Awfulheim, who we rolled up as the cult fanatic, the leader of the group, and kind of that end piece. In the stacked stone wall, one wooden gate stands open. The street beyond leads through the town. What buildings are visible are barren, the street empty. The sounds of weeping and children crying, occasionally a tortured scream rises in agony above the rest. No baked bread, roasting meats, spilled wine, or perfume fragrances, once common at the gate, waft through the air. A coppery taste hints to blood recently spilt. At this point, the big bad evil guy will reveal himself to the players. As the ashes blow slightly in the breeze, a yell of anger and fury breaks the stillness. A large human male, wearing scarred red leather armor and a deep cloak of black, covered in a 9-tailed barbed scourge embroidery, rushes from the gateway, one hand up and holding a dagger, the other hand out and waving a runic pattern in the air. The crazed eyes, balding head, and crooked nose show the madness of the figure, and the scars around his face and head show a lifetime of tortured life. Now, there are some details about Awfulheim here in the adventure to help really embolden your opportunity to play him as a real villain. And once Awfulheim is dealt with, you need to start closing the adventure and giving resolution to the pieces. As the sound of battle quiet, several voices behind the gate begin crying out for help. Numerous calls for rescue and voices telling others everything will be okay begin to fill the empty streets. And then with the epilogue, although you generally don't read that to your players, I'll summarize it here. Depending on the character's options and the outcome of dice rolls, the adventure can have multiple different conclusions. So likely outcomes of the adventure experience are covered in the adventure, but just to recap some of them, if the players enjoy it and want to continue with the characters they've rolled, there are numerous opportunities to tie in items that we cover in the adventure. For instance, the Cult of Lovatar, they're obviously operating in the area. Finding their temple location and rooting out the evil could be further adventures for this party. With the swamps getting worse and worse, while it could be due to the storms, you could have those swamps have gotten worse over time since the player characters last encountered it due to a number of different things. You can introduce a hag, a green or a black dragon, even wormlings can start having effects on those, and it could lead into further adventures in the area with the same characters. Additionally, you can work to build and renew. So you can have another session where the PCs are using kind of fun, interactive RP and skill rolls to work on rebuilding bridge, resowing the fields, helping organize after this chaos from the onslaught of the cult. Now, we create a lot of one-shot adventures using the same system, and we publish quite a few of them. There are really 4 big aspects that we see as benefits for this, and we cover those at the end of the adventure. One of them we call Together Forever, where as the players are introduced to the game and role-playing their characters, they may decide to stick together and form an adventuring group and continue with these characters in the stories that you create beyond. But it's also possible that the party may go their separate ways, and that's okay too, because then it gives opportunity for them to roll up new characters and experience either this adventure or others with different characters to play. When there's something beautiful, you can find that by rolling through these one-shot adventures and using them rather than planning out a full-length level 1 to 20 campaign or this big, huge epic thing, you can find that pulling in characters from different people allows you to see their play styles and for them to see your play style and make sure that everybody meshes really well at the table for lots of gameplay enjoyment. On the flip side of that, you can quickly find out who is not compatible with your play style, allowing you to make sure that you get the best group of players around you to really benefit everybody that sits at your game table. Well, that's the culmination of A Hard Journey Home, an adventure that we created just from random dice rolls and some creativity. We're going to put this up so you can download and play through it for free. I hope this whole series of building an adventure has helped spark your creativity and get some of those juices flowing for you to build adventures at your gaming table. Join us next week as we work on building some characters. So we're going to talk about the best reason to build lots of characters and some reasons not to build too many. So it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to cover it from both GM as well as player aspects and talk about character creation. In the meantime, make sure to let us know, where will your adventures take you? We'll see you then. Thanks for checking out that video. Hope you enjoyed it. Make sure, if you haven't already, please subscribe. Also, if you don't mind getting the notifications, be sure to hit that bell so you can see when we're posting new content. Give us a thumbs up just so we can help reach new audience members. And leave a comment and let us know what you thought of this video, just so we can help create better content and better react to what you need. Additionally, here's another video we think you may enjoy. And, of course, be sure to hit that subscribe. And, of course, please be sure to let us know, where will your adventures take you?